Judging by some of the headlines in Russia today, Moscow believes the latest telephone conversation between President Trump and Vladimir Putin went well. Certainly for the Kremlin. The Russian leader is yet to be pressured into any major concessions and is stalling on the unconditional 30-day ceasefire. In the last hour, Volodymyr Zelensky spoke with President Trump to get an update on those negotiations. It is unlikely he will be reassured by the tone coming from the White House, nor the commitments and assurances given by the Russian president. The Kremlin said it would observe a mutual moratorium on the targeting of energy infrastructure, and within an hour of giving that commitment, this happened. The Russians launched 150 drones overnight. This was a hospital in the Sumy region that was hit, among other transport and civilian infrastructure.
There were 150 drones overnight, targeting energy infrastructure, among other things. There were strikes against transport. 2 hospitals were unfortunately hit. In other words, Putin's words are very much at odds with reality.
Not only did Moscow not agree to an unconditional ceasefire, President Putin set further red lines for peace. They include an end to Western military aid to Kyiv and intelligence sharing, as well as an end to the mobilization in Ukraine. Naturally, that would lead to Ukraine's capitulation. A short time ago, the US National Security Advisor Mike Waltz was asked whether military aid to Ukraine had cropped up in that conversation. It did not, he said. Well, let's get some reaction and speak to our State Department correspondent Tom Bateman. Let's start with the phone call in the last hour. Has there been any readout of what was discussed?
Nothing at all. All we know is that it was due to start at 10 a.m. local time, so that's an hour ago. And then we await more from the White House. I mean, I think the important thing to say is, as far as we know, this is the first direct contact between President Trump and Zelensky since he was unceremoniously ejected from the White House, having been told he was ungrateful and disrespectful by Mr. Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance. And we then saw, military and intelligence assistance to the Ukrainians cut off in a move to apply intense pressure to them to sign up to President Trump's proposal for a full and immediate ceasefire. That was then reinstated, of course, when the Ukrainians agreed to that plan by President Trump, which was for that ceasefire, which would take effect across the front line, a truce at ground, sea and air. And of course, what we then saw in the space of a week last night with the call between Presidents Trump and Putin was Mr. Trump effectively retreat significantly on that position. So you now have the proposal for a much more limited truce, as you've been saying, and it's not clear actually. The Americans have talked about this in both terms, whether it's just energy infrastructure or energy and infrastructure, and there's been confusion between the two readouts from the White House and the Kremlin on this as well. So we're trying to understand what exactly the ceasefire proposal is supposed to encompass. But what you have seen now, of course, is this is now the new proposal. And the next stage in this should be talks between the Americans and the Russians, potentially in Saudi Arabia on Sunday, but there's still some confusion about whether that is a technical level discussion about how to implement this new truce proposal, the more limited one, or whether it's going to involve the principles, as they're called, so the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, Mike Waltz, and Mr. Witkoff as well. Still a lack of clarity on that, but it looks like the Americans are trying to push things forward in terms of discussions with the Russians.
Just seeing a line here from the White House that call is continuing. So it was due to start, I think, about half an hour ago. It continues. We'll bring you news when we get some idea of the readout from that call. Tom, for the moment, thank you very much. Let's bring in